Welcome back, part three. I feel your pain if you're here. We're going to pick up where we left off from part two. And what we're going to begin with is talking about our needs and expectations from a corporate perspective, the client's needs and expectations, our internal team's needs and expectations to execute the work, the third-party vendor's needs and expectations, and then the voice of the project's needs and expectations. So from our perspective, we're looking for high margin revenue recognition and the ability to continue to do this in various markets with repeat business. So the efforts we make at the beginning, we want to be financially satisfying. We want, if we're publicly traded, we want to increase shareholder value, certainly. And we may also, besides having market capture objectives, we may also want acquisition appeal as well, so that now we may be getting acquired and have massive shareholder value bumps. From a client's perspective, their needs and expectations, they need the scope tied to a budget that addresses their performance needs and guarantees. Fairly straightforward. They also want to make sure that they address all the compliance issues that they'll be subjected to. They want to make sure their budget is contained. They set a budget at the beginning. They don't want to blow this thing. Obviously, they're in it for the same reason you are. They want market value to increase. They themselves want to make a profit based on this work they've contracted you or us to do. And then finally, they could be doing it for market appeal. There are those cases where they need to get into an industry and that need is specific to appeasing someone more so than a significantly more viable business outcome. Our team's needs and expectations would be next. So our teams, our staff, they need detailed scope that on that contract is within our corporate sweet spot. So let's sell things that we definitely know how to execute. Now we all know that oftentimes that doesn't happen. This thing looks super sexy. So we convince ourselves it's in an adjacent market. It's close enough. Let's capture this baby and put it in the pipeline. Fair enough. Let's make sure we understand exactly what we're biting off and how much more difficult that might be to chew and execute. We also need a budget and contract that favorably allows us to do our work. The performance and compliance requirements need to be attainable. So once again, let's keep it in our sweet spot. We need to have the right staffing available for the scope that's assigned. And then finally, our field commissioning teams, we need to be kind to them. We need to feed them something that they will finally say, this is nice. All the skids showed up correctly. All the drawings match what we were expecting. All the databases are real. Our network actually connects without issues. Now, some of that sounds kind of like a pipe dream, but we can be a lot better than what historically happens. If you're on part three, that's probably a complete mess right now. And from a third-party vendor needs and expectations, they need a clearly defined scope and supply. They need to have excellent communication set up with the project team. Project manager, probably lead engineer, maybe graphics designer, database developer, depending on what the particular jobs have in them as scope. That needs to be clear. We need schedule-based, clearly defined schedule-based deliverables and examples. The key with the examples here is we need to, prior to cutting a contract with them, is show them the exact quality of deliverables they need to give us. And what we're talking about is, this is what a P&ID should look like. This is what an electrical drawing should look like. This is what a mechanical drawing should look like. This is what a controls drawing should look like. Do you have a controls narrative for your skid? Let's show them examples and say, this is what we expect. So there's no disconnect in between the two parties, because there's going to be multiple third-party vendors. And so you want to make sure this is clean from the get-go. It's to their benefit and to yours and to the projects. We need to have fairly clearly defined F8 factory and site acceptance test requirements, and we need to adhere to them. We need to be disciplined. This is what we need at our FAT. Not just testing your core, but we need to test the things that matter to us. And here's what we mean. Here's what we mean for a site acceptance test. This is what we expect. If you're signing off on the contract, this is what we expect you to deliver. This way, this stops all the change orders and the fighting, because we've frozen this early. So the expectations are set very early on. We need well-managed document control for our third party, so that all of a sudden we're not on a project meeting and they're talking about page 17 of the P&IDs and your page 17 doesn't match theirs because the drawings have been updated and they didn't get a copy. We need to avoid all those things. Document control, very important. Professionally managed meetings and distribution of changes. So when something does happen, everybody needs to know as soon as possible, and then let's have a quick discussion on it. Then finally, probably the most important is the voice of the project and its needs and expectations. This is the one that almost 100% of the time gets ignored. And so what I need if I'm the project is I want flawless marketing feeding flawless sales, feeding a flawless execution plan that's turned into a flawless contract that then comes into a flawless commissioning plan for a flawless performance test, for a simple turnover to the client, and an exceptionally clean support contract for the next 10 years that you're making revenue on as a service. Okay, that's what the project wants. That's what everybody wants. But nobody thinks like that through all of the steps. One of the transforming elements of making your company very successful long-term with tons of repeat business and a minimal accounts receivable list because they're always paying and they're happy to pay is to do these things. So that marketing to turnover package, we need that clarity in that scope. That scope has to be very distinct and not ambiguous. The third party and client inclusion in the process development. So before we freeze, we want everybody has to be involved in that final HAZOP review and process review, because if they're not, then that's open to a change order later and it could be catastrophic to the project. We need early stage design freeze. Please, voice of the project. I want this thing locked down early so that all change orders are non-negotiable. We know everybody signed up for and froze the scope early on. The only reason that we allowed you to ship your skid is because we know that it's frozen at this deliverable. So when we FAT it and we go over and see your FAT, we know exactly what we're expecting. We know exactly what should be shipped to site. And you and we and our field team know exactly what the site acceptance test is going to look like as well. And it's going to meet it because we know that because we froze it early on. The other element that is so critical is just an immaculate reconciliation of all project documentation. So we have a process flow diagram. And this to me is typically done by a top tier process engineer. That process engineer understands the PFD, the process flow diagram, and every step of the molecular manipulation from feed to product outcome. And all of those sheets that go through showing us the molecular changes as we slowly refine to the outcome we're looking for. Okay, through that, we've got the PFDs, we've got the P&IDs, the actual drawings by area that have all of the instrumentation and controls on them. It's got alarm set points, things like that. All that information is on there. Third-party vendors are supplying all theirs. We've got the electrical drawings, we've got the controls drawings, we've got the mechanical. So all of those elements and more, the single lines, right? What's coming in from the utilities? Do we have our own power plant? Do we have a something to clean the power coming in? Or do we have to take care of that ourselves? All of this has to be reconciled, again, prior to the freeze, so that we have a process narrative that is reconciled with all of the contributing databases into one master database with all the right set points, all the right flow rates, all of the right everything being reconciled, so that when we see deviations, that one lead process engineer then in the weekly or semi-monthly meetings knows exactly who to ask and who to assign that particular punch list item to, so that they can come back in a timely manner and get it addressed, so that a 2-inch pipe over here doesn't flange up to a 4-inch pipe over here. We need to reconcile. Should they all be 4? Should they be 3s? Should they be 2s? Whatever that is, we need to get all of that figured out early stage. Absolutely important to have immaculate reconciliation prior to the design freeze. That design freeze only happens because we've got a proctored HAZOP or detailed process review. Again, early stage. So at that point, we have frozen. We have not issued for construction anything until that point. Now we know exactly what we're building. And this is painful because everybody wants to recognize revenue by shipping half-built skids. And we're going to have to just understand that if you want to be disciplined and you want to stop having the pains you're having, then we need early stage design freezes. And it's very doable, very doable. Then we need well-managed project meetings, no releasing or shipping equipment until it's actually been FAT'd. Very difficult to do conceptually because of revenue recognition. Let's change our revenue recognition expectations at the board and C-suite level to make sure that we know that we're buying into a good future. The thoroughly vetted project documentation, the field commissioning team. We want a experienced field commissioning team that knows that we've got their back when they're out there in the field. If we've done everything else we've spoken about, they're going to be receiving equipment that they know works. That's going to be a big surprise and nice change for them. But still, there'll be questions. These drawings don't seem to align. What do I do with this database? Which tags do I really use? Do I go from a local PLC, or should I be going from the main control SCADA PLC? Should I be using my mobile device? Let's make sure we support them as best we can to keep them positive and on site as short as possible. Finally, we want to have an outstanding support mechanism for the field people so that when they do have a question, it doesn't sit for a week, or we've got to ship somebody out who's not available for 2 weeks to go and take a look at the problem. If we've got all of these other things in place, believe me, the phone calls will be short, they will be concise, everybody will understand the context, and the project will execute. Your accounts receivables will be on time and happily paid by your clients, and those clients are going to love you, and they're going to ask for repeat business. So now all of a sudden, you're meeting so many of those initial objectives that have, to this point, if you've suffered through these 3 videos, are giving you much pain, right? Maybe you've seen people lose their jobs, VPs, CTOs, CEOs. I've seen it happen. If we do this, everybody keeps their job, everybody gets their bonuses, clients are happy, everybody gets to go home early. Well, I hope you've perhaps not enjoyed this, but found it useful. And if so, I very much so look forward to working with you on transforming your business into something that you hoped it had always been. Thank you very much. Mike Buchevich signing off.